Welcome to the Moon in Gemini podcast. I am your witch in residence, April Edwards. This is our astrology of the week for August 31st through September 6th. The central theme is, what wants to grow must be honest enough to last. August 31st, Venus begins her shadow phase in Libra. This is the opening of a longer Venus story. The retrograde itself does not begin until October 3rd in Scorpio, but the shadow phase matters. It marks the territory Venus will return to. The themes that begin now may not be finished quickly. A conversation may begin here, a desire may become noticeable, a relational pattern may start to reveal itself. Something that looks small at first becomes more important later. Venus in Libra wants balance, a fair exchange. It wants relationship to feel considered. And it wants harmony. But shadow phases show us what harmony has been covering. They begin the quieter part of the work, the part before the obvious reversal, the part where the story starts gathering material. Because this shadow begins in Libra, the first layer is relational. How love is negotiated and peace is maintained. How much truth in a relationship can hold before the surface begins to crack. Libra can be elegant, but elegance is not the same as honesty. Libra can be graceful, but grace cannot become a disguise for resentment. This Venus shadow begins asking us to notice where balance is real and where balance has only been arranged for appearances. Then Venus will eventually station retrograde in Scorpio. So what begins politely may deepen. What begins as a question of fairness may become a question of trust. The shadow begins in Libra, but it is already pointing towards Scorpio. The surface and depth are connected. This week, Venus asks us to pay attention to what starts repeating. The same conversation, the same ache, the same imbalance. Do not force conclusions yet. It is the beginning of the thread, not the end of it. Also on August 31st, Jupiter in Leo trines Saturn retrograde in Aries. This is a strong fire aspect. Jupiter in Leo expands the heart, the desire to live more fully. Saturn retrograde in Aries brings maturity to courage, discipline to action, structure to the self. Together, this is expansion with a backbone. Jupiter wants growth. Saturn asks for form. Jupiter in Leo says the heart is ready for more. Saturn in Aries asks whether the life has the structure to carry it. This is not the kind of growth that burns bright and disappears. This is the kind of growth that can be built, practiced, and sustained. A creative fire gets a container. The desire gets a plan. The confidence gets discipline. This aspect may support long-term creative work or leadership that is becoming more mature. Leo wants to shine. Aries wants to act. Saturn retrograde asks whether the action comes from internal authority, not just urgency. The gift here is steadiness, not smallness, not restraint for the sake of restraint. Steadiness, the kind that lets the fire last. September 1st, Mars in Cancer squares Saturn retrograde in Aries. This is pressure. Mars in Cancer acts from feeling. It protects and moves through memory. It fights for the vulnerable place. Saturn retrograde in Aries stands in tension with that movement. Saturn slows, blocks, and tests. It demands maturity. Mars wants to respond now. Saturn inquires about the cleanliness of the response. This can feel frustrating. The body may want to act before the situation is ready. Anger may rise around family, home, protection, or emotional needs. A boundary may need to be placed, but the timing may feel heavy. A desire to move forward may meet resistance. Mars in Cancer can fight from the past. Saturn in Aries asks for present tense responsibility. That is the work of this square. Not every reaction is wrong, but not every reaction is ready to lead. The angry may be real, the need may be real, and the fear may be real. But Saturn asks for the maturity before action. This is not a transit that supports forcing your way through a wall. It supports understanding why the wall is there in the first place. Sometimes the delay is protection. Sometimes the limit reveals where the structure is weak. And sometimes frustration shows where courage needs more discipline. Mars square Saturn can feel like blocked momentum, but it can also build strength. Also on September 1st, Mercury in Virgo sextile Mars in Cancer. This gives the day a way through. Mercury in Virgo is precise. It notices the details that matter. Mars in Cancer is emotional action, a protective force. Together they support useful language. A conversation can become more productive. A feeling can be named more accurately. Mercury in Virgo helps Mars in Cancer slow down enough to understand what it is defending. It gives shape to the emotion. It turns reaction into a sentence. Mars square Saturn can feel tight. Mercury sextile Mars does not remove the pressure, but it offers a tool, a practical adjustment, the ability to say what is happening without making the whole room a battlefield. This is a good aspect for honest conversations around home, family, and emotional responsibility. The point is not to win. The point is to clarify, to make the action cleaner and let the words serve the repair. This week, do not rush the relational story. Do not mistake pressure for failure. Do not let frustration make the choice for you. Let Venus show you what is beginning. Let Jupiter and Saturn show you what can last. Let Mars reveal what still feels unsafe. And let Mercury bring the words that makes the next step possible. The fire does not need to fade. The heart does not need to shrink. But what wants to grow now must be honest enough to hold weight. It must have form. It must have patience. It must have enough truth to survive the retrograde story that is just beginning. This work grows through word of mouth. If it's been meaningful to you, you can comment, share, or subscribe. That's how it reaches the ones who need it.